only 31% of employees are engaged with work.
Who you are is not what you do. So it's really a manager's purpose to fill an employee up with purpose beyond the actual task.
You don't know if it works if you're not doing it. It's not that there's a single correct way to measure purpose or mission, because the unique purpose DNA of every credit union is going to be a little bit different. You gotta articulate what's important to you and then follow through.
You're listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, a podcast that delivers value and offers up insight that'll help your credit union grow. ServiceStar has been consulting with credit unions for over 20 years, growing them in the areas of cultural development, leadership development, and management training. To learn more about what ServiceStar can do for you or your credit union, check them out at servicestarconsulting.com.
And welcome back to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, where we inspire leaders of our great movement to pay it forward with financial well-being. And today is no different. Our episode today is all about financial well-being, but not just for your members, for your team members. I hope you receive this information well. I hope at the end of this podcast you get a receipt because of your receiving this information. Andy Lee knows what I'm talking about. Andy Lee, who do we have on for today's episode?
Man, I'm not going to try to say his last name. I'm just going to say Andy, the CEO and founder of Attune, which their whole purpose is to find making financial health a core KPI. So listeners, when do you know an employee's winning? When they can see proof that their work is actually making a difference. And that's what Andy does. He gives you the stats, the surveys, the research that says your work is making a difference. Today, we're going to learn how credit unions can actually measure that. So Ryan, let's go ahead and play this episode. Andy, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, beyond excited. So before we even get started with talking about proof of purpose, I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit. So in an elevator pitch, 2 to 3 minutes, I want you to answer these two questions. Who was Andy and who is Andy becoming?
I love that framing. I grew up a super nerd in Clear Lake in Houston. Everybody who grew up around JSC knows it's a bunch of rocket scientists and all the accountants and lawyers who help the rocket scientists and their kids. So it was nerds from all over the world, obsessed with math and science, and just building cool. And I feel like that ethos is still there. The difference now is I live in Toronto. I became a Canadian.
That's the complete opposite of Texas. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big change. I married a wonderful man who was born and raised in India. It's been 18 years together now. And I'm increasingly interested in how do I use that math and science nerdery in service of purpose, in collaboration with folks like yourselves who are gathering people to say, hey, what is it that you care most about? And how can we make sure that we're doing it day to day and that it's producing the outcomes that we want to produce?
Man, so I'm hearing this grew up by nerds. How do I use the nerd power for good?
Exactly.
So actually, bringing this idea of nerd and what would you call it? Numbers and heart, or numbers are part of heart. I wanted to start off with this question. I was looking up some research, and let me read this. There was recent research from Gallup, which Gallup, they're non-biased. In 2025, Gallup's research showed that only 31% of employees are engaged with work. It's an all-time low, the lowest it's been in 10 years. In addition, we actually did our own research with the Filene Institute, and it's not better. It shows that 84% of credit union workers say they could perform significantly better if they just wanted to. There's a lot of disengagement. So my question for you is, what's your take on hearing these stats? Why do you think engagement is so low?
People want to do work they care about, and they want to feel like their work matters and they matter. And if you don't get that from the people around you, whether that's your coworkers, your direct reports, your management, the clients you're serving, the members, the community, you're going to tap out. You're going to say, well, why should I bust my if I'm not going to be seen or appreciated doing that? And one of the paradoxes to me of the credit union movement being people helping people is we talk so much about how we're here to serve the member, which we are, but it's not possible to do justice for the members' needs if you're not starting with team needs. If you have an incredibly burned out, disengaged staff, that staff is not going to be really truly here for the member whose spouse just passed away and has to figure out all the estate. It's not going to happen.
So it's this idea of something I always, well, I'm quoting a guy I follow, Matt Redman. He says, my input needs to match, or my input needs to be greater than my output. And it's not always, hey, me first, me first. There's seasons where you're giving a lot and you might be taking a lot. But it's this idea that I've got to make sure I've got someone, whether it's leadership, work culture, something outside of work, pouring into me, making me better. Because what I'm hearing you say is this, one of the main reasons for disengagement is that we're not being recognized. And for those of us that are internally wired, we do the good, right thing, not because someone's watching us, just because it's the right thing to do. Eventually we get burnt out if we don't know why it matters. Albrecht, you've worked with tons of employees and leaders in the credit union movement. I'm sure you've got some stories or some thoughts on this idea of burnout and disengagement. What do you got?
For some reason, as a consultant in credit unions, you get a lot of people that come to you in not so great places. They never call you when they're like on the top of their game. They always call you like, I don't know if I even should be a manager. I don't know what I'm supposed to do when I grow up. And I like to let them know that who you are is not what you do. Many times what they're doing in that moment is not giving them energy and it's not filling them up. And so it's really a manager's purpose to fill an employee up with purpose beyond the actual task. Because the task that someone's doing in a credit union these days, it's not glorious. I mean, usually it's balancing a drawer or trying to find the 10 cents that your coin machine's off on. It's not this, you're getting excited to come to, I mean, there are some people that actually are in that category, probably live in Houston, where they're really excited to find the outage,
Houston.
But for most employees, calling someone to collect on some cash, it's a, dare I say, boring task. And so how do we take our mission and turn on the lights of purpose for something that otherwise would seem mundane for employees? That's the ask of managers. But yet you're not who you are is not what you do. And I think when we tie our self-worth to the job, the task at hand, it's dangerous.
And I want to transition a little bit. We're talking about disengagement. I think this is a perfect time, Andy, to bring up your company. Correct me if I'm saying it wrong. Attune, right?
Yep.
Attune. Yeah. So what Attune does is gives metrics to mission. And what I was talking about with Andy before we were recording was I was so excited because what Service Star Consulting does is we work with leaders, we work with their contributors to create mission, create behaviors that reflect mission. But the thing that we strongly encourage people to do is you need metrics that you can point back to, that you can constantly say, this is living out our mission. This is why it's important. Hey, you can see the impact. And that's what's super exciting. This is where you come in. This is what you do. So, why do you believe organizations should measure their mission as intensely as their margin?
You don't know if it works if you're not doing it. If you said, I think our deposits are fine. I think our ROA is fine. We don't really need to check, right? We're so well trained. We're just doing the right stuff. We don't need to check. Forget that you have to report to the NCUA for a second. But if you approached it and said, what do you mean? Why should we check? Because we got it. You would just laugh someone out of the room.
Yeah.
But that's what we do on the mission side. We somehow think that because this is the heart of it or the softer side of it, that good intentions will carry us all the way through. And it's just not true. You can have good intentions about your deposits all day long. That doesn't mean you're growing your deposits. You have to actually check. You might think that this campaign is going to drive a whole bunch of new members, but you don't know unless you check. So similarly on the mission side of things, you can say some variation of our mission is to help our members become more financially stable over time. But how do you know? Is it that they're overdrafting less? Is it that they have increasing balances in their savings over time? Is it that, they started with a no emergency fund and now they have a 6-month emergency fund. Or,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? It's not that there's a single correct way to measure purpose or mission, because as you all know well from your consulting, the unique purpose DNA of every credit union is going to be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you got to articulate what's important to you and then follow through,
Mm-hmm.
rather than assume that, okay, because we talked about it and because we started changing a little bit how we work, we know it's having the effect that we want.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like just thinking about the difference between Attune and Service Star. Our missions are the same. We want to help credit unions make a positive impact on members. How do we do at Service Star? We coach leaders into setting behaviors that lives that out. What do? You work with leaders to measure if they're living out their purpose. It's the same thing, but we're focused on a minute detail that makes our whole jobs completely different. And I love what you said about this idea of we're not measuring it. And what I say is then it just becomes a dream, a daydream where it's just like, oh, isn't that nice? But our job is we want to make dreams a reality. Like my purpose is I want to help others fight for dreams. And I not just say, oh, isn't this nice? And I know we get a dopamine hit out of saying it. And actually this goes from what was it, talent of acquisition? They had some studies that said when it came to goal setting, they said people that speak out loud their goal, they have a 25% chance of completing it. But people that not only speak out loud their goal, they write it down, they have a plan, and they have some sort of system, a weekly accountability, which in that it wasn't metrics per se, but it was meeting with an individual saying, this is the progress I've made. 95% chance of completing it. So what I'm hearing you say is very often we're always focused on the bottom line. And yeah, we're achieving that. We're doing that good. The ROI, our ROA is really good, but we're not doing it with mission. And most of us are in that 25% chance of just speaking it out loud. And, it gets me thinking like at Chick-fil-A, my previous life, something we did is we would have surveys that we'd send out. And yeah, I was measuring things like what was the temperature of the food? How fast did you get the food? What was the quality of the food? All right. And this would be all similar to like credit unions, bottom line, the money, things like that. But then also we had strategically asked questions where we would get results on living out our mission. Our mission was to be the most caring company in the world. And it was things about being attentive and courteous and sense of urgency from the employees. And I'm hearing at Attune, you're helping credit unions find metrics like that. What would be some examples of that?
Some examples are, for the members themselves, are they actually feeling more financially confident in their lives after working with
Mm.
you? Are they feeling less financial stress after they've been a member for 2 years versus a month? For your team members, same things. And are they feeling cared for? Are they feeling supported in their job? Is their own personal financial situation getting better because they're working at the credit union? One of the misconceptions a lot of leaders have is, oh, well, credit union staff, they're good. They work at a
Mm-hmm.
credit union. They know everything about finances inside and out because that's what they do all day, every day. So, of course, they're fine. But
Mm-hmm.
our employees and our members live in the same communities. They go to the same churches. Their kids play soccer together. They live in the same environment and therefore have the same challenges. Unless you
Mm-hmm.
make a concerted effort with how you structure your benefits, how you communicate about those benefits, how you talk to your employees about becoming members and using your own products and services, your employees are also going to be sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to make my rent. Or wait, I have this debt and I'm drowning in it. And I know I'm calling these other people for collections, but I am 2 days away from being on the receiving end of one of those calls.
Mm. Yeah.
And until you recognize that that same set of challenges exists in your workforce, one, and two, that it's really harming your ability to actually do better on the margin side of things, you're not going to make a concerted effort to say, whoa, we need to engage our employees. And engaging them is not just a, here's an employee of the month sticker or something. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
genuinely what is causing the disengagement and the burnout. And a huge part of it is financial instability. And you probably already have the right stuff to help with it. But if people don't know it exists, then they're not going to do it.
Albrecht, this reminds me of what we teach in employee motivation for leaders and saying that quiet quitting is a big thing right now, but one of the things that builds engagement, that reduces quiet quitting and turnover, is this idea that one, their leader cares about them on a personal level, and two, that there's opportunities to develop. And what I'm hearing, Andy, you say is this idea of developing, maybe not in a career sense, but like in a personal, like financial wellness sense. So if I'm hearing you right, Andy, when you work with credit unions, are you creating surveys that go back out to the external members and the internal team that they're filling out? How does that work? Give us like a quick lowdown.
Yeah, exactly. We always recommend that you start with internal team members. You don't have to, but starting with internal team members allows you to see what is the pulse of your workforce right now and what are the biggest financial challenges your employees have. Then you can
Mhm.
look at your benefits and say, do we actually have the things we need to address those challenges? If yes, then probably we have a communications problem. So, for example, we work with a credit union that just switched their 401k from opt in to opt out. So now everyone's default enrolled
Wow, it's
at
opt out.
3%.
Dang.
And you can opt out. There are genuinely situations where you should not be contributing to your 401k, but just that one shift of saying, we're going to, by default, have every single staff member contributing to their retirement really gets people on a head start in terms of compound interest. And that's not so much creating a new benefit, it's literally calling your plan provider and saying, can we make this change so that it's default on? Then you have to
Mhm.
communicate about it, about what is it and why is it. But things like that help when your staff, they have a million other things to do besides pour over your retirement plan documentation. So
Mhm.
that's one
Mhm.
little example, but we'll have the survey work start with team members because one, it gives you a chance to actually do something about employee engagement off the bat. But then two, when your team members see that, whoa, you're actually seeing how we are and you're actually noticing where we're struggling, you're actually making some kind of a change, they are way more likely to show up for members the way
Mhm.
that you need them to show up for members. So when you then go do the member survey assessment second, and then you come back to your team with, hey, here's what we found in terms of what members need and where we need to adjust. All the team members are like, oh, yeah, I remember that. We just did that. We just did that for ourselves. And I personally made a change out of this kind of data. So I can see how, for a member, personally making a change
Yeah.
would make a big difference.
You know, this year you wrote an article for CU Insights, and you were talking about it goes back to what you said is just, hey, this is our, I hope we're living out our mission. And you're saying when you talk to credit unions and you say, how are you measuring you living out your mission of improving the financial well-being or culture, the metrics that they're telling you aren't that great. And there was one that you said, yeah, I could kind of see this. And I wanted to dive into this. It was, correct me if the wording's wrong, but it's basically around the sense of how many members do we have that has over $400 in their savings account? Does
Mm-hmm.
this reflect living out our mission? And when I read that, I was like, well, yeah, but also I feel like that's such like not low hanging fruit, sandbagging maybe is, man, if I want to be
Mm,
helping people win with money, $400 in my savings is not going to help me if I can't pay this month's expenses or something happens. And we should challenge credit union leaders to say, this is a great metric to reflect providing peace of mind for our members, not 400. I would say something greater. Dave Ramsey says 1,000, but if you go online, everyone's butchering him right now, saying 1,000's not even enough. That he's got to get with the times. And for Dave, he says it's more of just the idea of, hey, we're starting to make momentum because it's baby step 2, not 3. But anyways, what I'm saying is $400. If people are complaining about 1,000, that metric should be higher, and it should be something we are coaching and helping and celebrating when our members are reaching there. So what are your thoughts? What are some of the, I guess you could say, KPIs that astound you that you're like, this is not showing us living out our mission? And what's one simple KPI metric we should move towards?
I wish there was only one. And the reality is it's a ladder. The idea of baby steps is right. The specific set of baby steps that are going to be right for a member are different. But like one example that I like to use is,
Mhm.
okay, let's say there's a member in front of you and they have $1,500 in their savings and their monthly income is, say, a couple $100. And it looks like maybe they're doing delivery for Uber or DoorDash or something. And if that's all you're looking at, you're going to go, one thing goes wrong, we are in trouble. You sit down with that person in a branch and you find out they're 20, living at home with their parents. Their expenses are zero. They don't
Yeah.
pay any rent at all. They do a little bit of delivery here and there for DoorDash to contribute groceries, but their monthly expenses are in fact only $200. And 200 times 6 is 1200. Their $1,500 in savings is more than a 6-month emergency fund.
Yeah.
They are doing just fine. Then you have another member where it looks the same on paper, but they are on their own. And that $1,500 used to be 10K, but they've been draining it every single month to pay the bills.
Mm.
Completely different situation. So, one of the metrics that I really, really like is if you stopped earning money today and had to live on just the cash that you have, how long would it last you?
Mm.
From a week to 6 months or more. And then that allows you to adjust for these different situations. There are people that have monthly expenses of 3 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand more that they truly cannot cut. And then there are people who, for whatever life circumstance, have the ability to live on close to nothing, whether because they're living with family or because they happen to be in a very rural area and they have a house that's paid off, so it's really just utilities. That sense of personal runway, if you will, is enormously helpful, not just in terms of that psychological peace of mind, which
Yeah.
is real. Like the Dave Ramsey thing you're mentioning of somebody who has never had anything in savings and now has 400 or now has 1,000, even if there's still a long way to go, celebrating those milestones along the way is important. It's like,
Yeah.
I ran a half marathon in grad school, and I was never going to run a half marathon if I didn't get positive reinforcement at like mile 3 and mile
Yeah.
5 and mile 10. You got to encourage people along the way. But I think there's also this element of the dollar amount is going to differ so much from member to member based on their household composition, where they live, what their work situation is, do they have retirement, how old are they, et cetera, et cetera.
We're going to pause it real quick. I want to hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll get right back to this.
So you're interested in Service Star training, but you don't know what courses to send your employees to. Introducing course bundles. Launch your employees into unparalleled growth through our Credit Union PhD, Service Excellence, and Becoming a Sales Champion or Referral Sales Champion workshops in the bundle known as the New Employee Bundle. A very popular solution for credit unions. Your employees' first dive into the rich history of our financial cooperative, where people helping people set the cornerstone of our popular credit union movement, will be established in the Credit Union PhD workshop. This workshop brilliantly lays out the groundwork of the very essence of the credit union movement. Then they learn how to evaluate your members' experience to new heights through our Service Excellence workshop. We'll equip attendees with the skills and the mindset needed to deliver exceeding excellent service every time with every member, internal or external. And that's not all. Our Becoming a Sales Champion workshop or Referral Sales Champion workshop arms employees that are member facing with the skills to improve members' financial well-being by seamlessly presenting valuable products and services that improve financial well-being for our members. Alternatively, for those that are focused on just referrals, our Referral Sales Champion workshop opens the doors to unmatched expertise. Don't miss out on the opportunity to live out your mission one new hire at a time with this extraordinary opportunity to send your new employee to our New Employee Bundle. Bulk pricing discounts are available on our events website. Visit servicestarconsulting.com/bundle for more information.
Ads over. Let's get back to it. Here we go. This reminds me of the power of open-ended questions that we teach frontline staff when it comes to sales. Albrecht, I know you got some thoughts and you're just dying to share. What's going through your head right now?
Well, as a parent of 4 kids, I'm thinking, first and foremost, how you raise kids matters. They should probably be prepared to look at their finances. As someone who's sending kids to school, I'm, ashamed to say our school system's failing people when it comes to managing your money. And so there is no other place that's safe to talk about this kind of stuff. And I'd even argue that a branch is not a lobby is not the safest place to open up about the fact that you're in debt. And so how do we find those windows with a member where they're calling in for something not even related to anything, right? I mean, the contact center might even be a better place to have a conversation. I know you got 20 calls in the queue and you're measuring, average call time of 2 minutes per whatever, but this might be your only shot. This one call to see if they can close their account, it could be your window to just pop one of those open-ended questions up. And how are we doing? Are you better off today than you were yesterday when you opened the membership? That might be a great way to start that conversation.
Man, so this is fascinating. Andy, you work with leadership of credit unions to say, let's be measuring the right things to know we're making the impact. And what I'm hearing is that impact of how secure are you in your finances? If you were to lose your job, how long could you last? And how comfortable are you with that? And then what Scott's talking about is we train the behaviors of asking open-ended questions as well to our members to find out, hey, how confident do you feel? Or doing the 10-second referral. Hey, I wanted to let you know I saw this, thought you'd be interested in this way that could save you some money or give you peace of mind. Have a great day. And these things work perfectly together. Now, I want to transition a bit. There's something else, because what you're doing is you're giving metrics to credit unions to help them understand, all right, these are real metrics that actually show us living out our mission. It's not just how do I pigeonhole or how do I fit a square block through a circle hole of, oh, here's metrics we've always used. This is how it reflects our mission. No, you're working with them to create new metrics that do this. Now, Scott, when we teach leadership, a metaphor we talk about a lot is the total communication given to employees about mission. We say the total communication about mission is equivalent to a 30-minute speech at most organizations. Now, with this, there is another article, a peer-reviewed article that says, does your mission statement have any value? That's a pretty direct title. And one of the points they lead with is just creating a mission statement is insufficient. Just creating a mission statement is insufficient. So as you're hearing this, Andy, what have you seen working with credit unions when it comes to, hey, just creating a mission statement? How has that helped? How has it not helped? What are the misconceptions you see a lot of people have with that? Because I think you even said it at the beginning. You said it's not enough to just say this and just hope it works out.
It's the start, but it can't be the end. One of the anti-patterns I see a lot is people will create a mission statement and then say, oh, that's our foundation's job. We have a mission, and the way that we're going to really work on purpose is it's going to be in our foundation. And I'm not saying don't create a foundation. Foundations do wonderful work. But if you're relying on your foundation to do 100% of the mission work, then what's the point of everybody else? like why
that
even
contributes
write
to
it?
more disengagement. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, if I want to make an impact, I should go be part of the foundation department.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. Whereas, example, if you have a mission team and that mission team is composed of leaders from every function, and that team is tasked with how do we make this mission come to life within our function? And then they roll that down to their department leaders, and then they roll that down to their frontline staff. Really cool things can come out of it. For example, what if some of your branches aren't just branches, but they're actually financial health centers? What if you imagine them as places where you do actually create the space for people to come in and have a hard conversation, which means they're probably not sitting at a desk or standing at a counter where everybody else can hear them talking about this hard stuff. There's got to be, just like your 10-second referral, there's got to be a gentle way to say, oh yeah, and if you ever want to book a time to talk to somebody about this kind of stuff, here's how you sign up. It's gentle, but then it sticks with people. And then you've got a room where people can go sit and actually have coffee or tea and talk through whatever it is, knowing that they're in an environment of absolutely zero judgment. And of course, there's a lot of training for that. And I'm so curious to hear you both talk more about your staff training and your sales enablement, because one of the questions I hear a lot is, I'd love for my staff to do that, but they're telling me they can't because they're graded on 2 minutes or less per call. They're graded on how quickly can I get through this queue. And it sounds like you're telling me to do two different things at the same time.
And we get that all the time. Albrecht, I think this is let's camp out here. I think this is a good conversation where Andy and we can talk about, or how are we helping do the same thing from different ends? It actually goes to, I was reading a bunch of articles on the same idea of, does your mission statement contribute, have any value? And a lot of people say you need to over communicate your mission. You need to communicate it 10 times over. Or the thing I say is, when you get sick of it is when they start to stick with it. And it got me thinking, and I think you could kind of gamify this, but it's all right. When it comes to communicating mission, it doesn't mean communicating the same way over and over again. It's, how do I constantly reiterate? How do I communicate this in multiple modalities? And Andy, you have the modality of, here's stats, here's surveys. Albrecht, we have a few modalities ourselves. Oh, yeah. So let's start off with you. What are one of the things that we do to help connect mission with work?
I like the analogy side of things. So we help credit unions build mission statements, right? We help credit unions work on behavioral service standards that roll off of the mission statement. And then I'll pass it over to you, but not before I give you this picture. The brain has a reward center called dopamine, and dopamine will actually release before the actual activity begins, which is really dangerous. Like, if I say I'm going to lose weight, I get a reward before I ever did a single stinking thing. And so how does that negatively affect organizations with goodwill? They actually get a reward in their brain for just saying something. And so a lot of times we'll put the mission statement up. We'll spend a lot of money with consultants organizing the most beautiful mission statement in the world. We'll paint it on the walls. We'll get the marketing. We'll get the billboard. We'll get all this. And then they get all this satisfaction before they did anything with it in the first place. And so this idea of accountability with a mission team, I think, is amazing. I think it's fantastic, because the problem potentially with numbers is there's usually two paths to get to the same number. I can get to my gap number by just force placing gap on every loan that you sell. I'll get the gap number. Or I can ask people why they're in the market for a vehicle. If they hit a deer, gap. They both work. But when we focus a lot on numbers and we miss the mission, the way that we get there creates more calls in the contact center. That's why you have the 2-minute SLAs, because, hey, I just got my first statement in the mail when 60 to 90 days after the first payment. You think they remember the conversation about the gap that was really sped up because they're timed on how long they'd taken their loan closings? Or worse, now in e-disclosures, we just e-disclose them. Hey, just sign. Oh, you're good. Yeah, you got gap. No, they're going to call and be like, hey, what's this gap on my, did I ask for that? And now our call center, it does have 20 calls in the queue because we did it the wrong way. And so mission can actually reduce your call time just by not force placing gap on a loan. You're next.
Yeah. So going off that, Albrecht, and then it'll be fun, Andy, to see what are surveys, stats that you have that would reflect this on the other side. So I'll give the whole holistic approach. In, like, I think of Property Brothers, when they like go and show them the like $1 million house and the client really loves, and they go, but it's $1 million. They go, oh, my budget's only 300,000. They go, all right, let's look at it 300,000. And then it helps. I'm going to show you everything we do real quick in a quick pitch. One, we work with leaders to create their mission statement or look at their mission statement and values. Once we do that, we talk, it's not a one-time event. Everything starts here and we move from that. So from that, then we say, all right, let's look at your values. Let's look at your mission, and let's come up with certain behaviors that live out your mission. So let me give one that we did. One that we did is the value of helping our members, empower our members to live their best financial life. That was one of the parts of a mission of a credit union. And then we said, all right, behavior standards, the formula of it is behaviors plus values equals behavioral standards. So with that value of empowering financial well-being, we said, what is a behavior that does that? Well, we worked with the credit union. They said, when I open a new account, I will submit a credit report to our lending officer within 2 days. Something like that. So they can look and see what are opportunities that we could help them if they're trying to refinance or try to buy a house, things like that. That's an example. So that is a behavior standard. So then when I see that, what we do now is we work with the leaders, the middle managers, because what we've learned from our research is it takes over 10 years for any manager to get formal leadership training. It's usually just, hey, you've been really good at doing all this work. You're really fast at it. People ask you questions. Here's keys, lead the team. Good luck. And they don't know how to lead. So what we do is one of the very practical things. So I'll give away this nugget is when you're doing coaching, we give you a plan of how do you conduct your coaching meetings, what you can do in between meetings. But one of the biggest things we talk about, and it's what you talked about with the half marathon, the positive reinforce at each mile. And we talk about the idea of catching people doing it right. And it's a very specific model, catching people doing it right at level 3. And it's kind of the same as behavior standards. We say, look at the specific behavior and then tie it into your mission or value and do it right when you see it. Do a quick Slack message. Catch them doing it right in the middle of, right when they do it. Do it in a pre-huddle meeting, or that's my Chick-fil-A show and pre-meal eating meeting. And actually, that goes, I've just finished a book, Unreasonable Hospitality, and they talk about
that book.
Yes. So in pre-meals, so that's like the 30 minutes before you start your shift. So think about like the 5 minutes before you unlock the doors at your branch. You get everyone together, and you know what most people do? They go, well, guys, here's the update from HR. It's time to sign up for enroll in your benefits now. Make sure you do that, and let's open up. What does that? No. What we need to do is we need to say, hey, what's our mission? Hey, you want to what? Yesterday, so-and-so, they helped a member out by doing this, and I want to catch them doing it right. Hey, today, let's focus on this value. What are some ideas of what we can do today? And get everyone together, and we help leaders facilitate that huddle. We get them networked with other leaders so they can learn from each other. So like I said, we help them create mission. We help them create values. We help them create behavior standards. We help them catch and doing it right. We help facilitate a culture that breeds motivation, where people would say, I want to perform at a higher level. And then we even talk about, I just taught this course last week, strategic thinking, where we have this flywheel where we say, all right, what is your core purpose? What are measurement tools? Could be observation, like I just hear it, but it'd be great to work with you of, hey, here's like a dashboard of it. And then you evaluate it. And based on that evaluate, you say, all right, what do I need to do differently to better live out my mission? And we just constantly do that. So as Albrecht and I are sharing, all right, here are just a few things we do with credit unions. What's going through your brain, Andy? What are tools that you have there? You're like, oh man, if they worked with Service Star and Attune, this is what we could do to give them the full impact.
Yeah, it's amazing. First, the dopamine thing is real. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing that you get that hit before you do something. We just got to reframe it as the launch. This is getting you really excited about the launch. That dopamine hit when you say, here's my mission, is everybody getting super excited leading up to the start time of the race.
Amen.
It's in the marathon, it's the you're all behind the tape. They haven't even said go yet, and you're just pumping people up about getting excited about it. But you would never have all these people at a race and then they feel great and be like, okay, bye, go home, you're done. It's like you didn't even run the freaking race. So that's part of it.
Imagine a bunch of fat people at the starting line, and then they say go, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah, or really fit people who then are going to be really sad because you didn't actually let them do the thing that they were most excited about to do. And then all those wonderful, super energized people who came here because of your mission will quit.
Yeah.
And then go somewhere else that's actually living and breathing this because they thought you were living and breathing it, and then it turned out to not be true. So that's one.
Yeah.
Then in the behavioral standards, I love that. I love this cohesive connection between, okay, we've got this mission statement, we have these values, we're going to say, here's the set of behaviors, and we're going to catch people doing it right. And in the catch people doing it right, I think what's so brilliant and beautiful about that connection is you're not just saying this is great, which is important, but you're saying here's why. In the moment, this is great because this behavior links to this value, which links to this mission, which is why we exist. And connecting those dots for people, you have to do over and over and over until they start to hear it. Sometimes I like to say 7 times 7 ways. So it's a Slack message, and it's a hallway conversation, and it's a recognition at an all-staff meeting, and it's that pre-huddle meeting before the branch, and it's an email that you send at the end of the week, and it gets written up in their review. And when you are having a team lunch around a holiday, you say, hey, remember when you did that? That was awesome. That's 7 times 7 ways. And it doesn't have to be those 7, but linking for people, this is what you did, this is why it was great, and this is how it connects to the larger thing is what helps it stick. And then on the measurement side of things, I love the submit credit report to the loan officer. An even larger opportunity alongside is, and share that credit report with the member and do a detailed walkthrough with them about, hey, have you ever actually looked at your credit report? You want to sit down And let's walk through, what is it? What are the sections? How does it work? How's it calculated? What's working really well? And what do you have questions about? A lot of members have never actually gotten the opportunity. The credit report is just this kind of black box that some scary person
Yeah.
over there uses to judge you. So, what a difference it is if somebody becomes a member and right off the bat, you're providing them with a service that they probably have never had someone talk through with them. That can be a really empowering thing too.
You could track that by meetings. You could track that just by observation of, oh, hey, I heard you have a sit down and do this. Hey, way to go. That's living out our mission of empowering the financial well-being of our members, or that living out our mission of integrity, going beyond just being an order taker, things like that.
Exactly.
Man, I love what you said, 7 times 7 ways. So it goes back to all that research that says, hey, communicate mission 10 times over, but we're getting more specific of it's not just literally be a broken record and say it. And a lot of leaders think that's what it is. Let me just constantly say it. Let me constantly just repeat. No, no, no. It's all those things that you said. And also, you know what, Ryan, make a note. We'll put this in the show notes. I have a document that walks people through catching people doing it right. And actually there's a
Awesome.
page. I don't know if it's 7 different ways, but it has multiple ways of here's some examples of a Slack message, an email, a team meeting, an informal conversation. And then a way for you to track it to see how are you going to do it this next week. I call it the leadership toolkit. And I think with what we're talking about today, that's a perfect thing for people to leaders to measure. Are we doing this? All right, so now we're talking about, all right, what ServiceStar does, what Attune does. We both work with a lot of leaders in creating culture, making this impact. What's the one mistake? All right, and I know there's a few, but if you were going to boil it down to the most common mistake, what's the one mistake leaders make when trying to measure impact?
I'd say the biggest mistake leaders make when trying to measure impact is treating it as an afterthought,
Mm.
treating it as, oh, yeah, I guess we need some kind of impact measurement to check a box for some impact report that we need to show to funders who are funding our foundation, or to grant making agencies that are helping us do some community outreach work. It's almost
Yeah.
a check the box kind of exercise that's externally driven for some other agency or grant making agency, versus we would never treat our core business metrics that way. We would never treat deposit growth, loan growth, member growth
Mhm.
as a check the box exercise for someone else, because we know that if we can't figure out deposit growth, loan growth, member growth, we die.
Yeah.
We know that it is absolutely core and vital to the survival of our credit union to do that well. And we know that our teams get better and stronger when we rally everybody around a goal and then execute the plan and then debrief afterwards saying, well, how well did we do at
Mhm.
reaching that goal? Did we hit our deposit growth target? Did we hit our member growth target? Did we get what we wanted from this campaign? Impact measurement has to work the same way. And I think it goes back to it being a cycle and a feedback loop. The way that you're describing this connection between mission, values, behaviors, purpose, and the way that you use that team meeting right before you open the branch, it's not like it's a one-off top-down thing. It's always in conversation with what happened the previous day. What
Mhm.
did we learn yesterday that makes us better today? What
Yeah.
will we learn today that makes us better tomorrow? It has to be this iterative cycle of what impact are we having now? And if we don't like it, then let's change it and make it better. It's not this thing that is on the side. It is a core part of your business, just like everything else is a core part of your business.
And the employee gets to be a part of it. It's not just, hey,
Exactly.
this is what the boss says. Yeah.
And it has to be, for the employee to really be a part of it and feel a part of it, they have to be able to connect it to their work, which is the person sitting in the branch who is helping a member open a membership, become a member, open a new account. In that, that is one of the most important relationship moments you will ever have between a team member and a member. And it's not a transaction. We have to make sure people are following SOPs and they're doing it right,
Yeah.
but it's not a transaction. If we treat it as a transaction of, did you just check these boxes for how you're supposed to do it, and did you do it in a timely way, then we're losing this huge opportunity to say, how can the becoming a new member experience live and breathe our mission and our values in a way that makes us feel completely distinct
Hmm.
instead of, oh yeah, I opened a new account, it was easy.
Yeah.
What's the opportunity to wow somebody? Like in Unreasonable Hospitality, there's that book, and then the TV show The Bear is very much
Hmm.
modeled on that book, right? And so if somebody's from out of town, they just really, really want to have a New York hot dog, what does the restaurant do? They go and get a New York hot dog from a hot dog stand, and then they cut it up and they plate it and they bring it to the table. And it's this moment of complete delight and surprise that wasn't
Hmm.
expected. It wasn't even on the menu. But even these insanely high pressure, fast paced, like you watch The Bear in the kitchen, there are these things everywhere that say every second counts. You cannot tell me that a kitchen is a slow, do whatever you want to do environment. It is high
Yeah.
pressure, fast, high performance. And yet, top tier hospitality places find ways operationally, rigorously to
Hmm.
engineer these moments of delight with the people who come through their doors. So when I hear we don't have time for that, or that sounds nice, or that's a luxury that we can't afford because we're focused on the business, I'm like, what kind of business are you running?
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
telling me that you can't do it when this insane kitchen can do it, it's a choice. It's a choice about how you lead.
It's a choice. Mission needs to be at the forefront, not being an order taker. And then with that, what I'd add is you said people treat measuring impact as an afterthought, which what I'm hearing is we're robots and we forget the mission. And I think some of the greatest companies that people know that they want to work with or work for are ones that put mission at the forefront. And part of that, Albrecht, what we teach in multiple of our leadership modules, when one of the things we do is we work with leaders to create not just a purpose statement, but a purpose statement for their department saying, how does your
Exactly.
department live out the purpose? Yes. And then from that, they create a SWOT analysis and that creates a to-do list. And then we say, all right, let's prioritize what's the next thing you need to do. And we have these four quadrants of what to do, the important or urgent. And Albrecht, what's the biggest thing we say when it comes to important or urgent? What's the biggest struggle? It is.
Ain't nobody got time for all the things that are on my list to get done.
Yes, the urgent always consumes the important. Urgent always consumes the important. But we've got to keep mission at the front. So we hear the struggle, and that's why this happens. Now, the other thing, there's simple steps we've talked about, and you could start with baby steps, like the pre-huddle. Hey, what's one behavior that matches with a value? That's a service standard. Another one was, as you were talking, it reminded me of important. Oh, this. You had talked about earlier, Andy, of having like a mission department instead of the foundation department. And in that book, Unreasonable Hospitality, they have the Dream Weavers department, which what their job is, hey, let's create this extraordinary moment like the hot dog or the putting the coins in the parking meters or doing some crazy things. It's like, some credit unions, they have the member experience department. And we got to be thinking, all right, what can we do to create that? How can we work in tandem? But also, what I heard you say, and this is going to be a struggle for so many credit unions, is you talked about don't tell me every second matters in the kitchen. All right. When we're talking about the finance, yes, people's money, very important. You know what else is very important? People's food and them being hangry. And you'll see this conflict between the two departments. We call them front of house and back of house. In the credit union, we call them
Exactly.
support and member facing, where member
Correct.
facing is saying, no, this is important. It's the experience. And support saying, well, no, we need to follow the rules. Well, just like that in the kitchen, they're saying, no, we got to make this food fast or we got to make it to our quality. But then you've got the front saying, we need to create this experience. And yes, there's going to be friction. And that's healthy and good if we have trust. And we talk about that. And we have courses on that too. But we've both got to be focused on what is the overall mission. And I've got to be able to understand what is the mission of each department so I can respect your perspective and say what lives out our mission best in this moment.
And it's a healthy creative tension. The member experience teams who do the best are the ones who make friends across the organization and actually deeply understand what is it like to be in support. And let me actually do rotations in support and feel that viscerally so that I'm not up here on some high horse saying, like, oh, y'all just don't care about experience. You're not doing this because you haven't lived it. How it shows up is going to be different in every place because the needs are different and the culture is different, but that
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
empathy and mutual understanding, even across departments, and the recognition that we are all one team, front of house, back of house, we are all one team, and we're here to support the member. And that requires us supporting each other in understanding the constraints we face. And if the way that we've set up our SOPs doesn't allow us to create moments of delight, then that's a problem. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
problem that's on us to solve organizationally, that leadership has to get together and say, wait a minute, we're incentivizing our teams in opposed ways. And we
Silos.
need to come up with better ways to both meet the time pressure that we have and the obviously very important regulatory keep the business lights on
Yeah.
stuff while making room for delight. How might we do that? And the credit reporting piece is actually a great example of that to me. It doesn't take very long when you're onboarding a new member to do a soft credit pull, send that off to lending, and then provide something for the member. Whether you're directly having that whole conversation right now, some people may be like, I just want to open an account. I cannot sit here for half an hour with you. But you can still provide them something to take home.
Mm-hmm.
And when you provide them something to take home, you can have something on there that says, hey, if you ever want to talk about it, here's a QR code, scan it, make an appointment.
Yeah. Man, this has been such a fascinating conversation. And it's really cool to see both ends of this, leading to lagging, of living out our purpose. I want to end it off with this. One of the things we teach in coaching is, hey, at least do monthly coaching sessions with each employee on your team. If you can, do it once a week. And what we train is, hey, give the metrics to the employee you're meeting with the day before so they can look at it, so they know what they're going to be talking about, not just at the annual employee appraisal or evaluation, but no, talk about so it's not a surprise and they know you're here to see them win, but not just see them win, say, how can you be a part of the purpose? So with this, all right, we can guide credit unions of, hey, here's what a lot of credit unions use as metrics or observations that they send the day before we start our coaching to catch you doing it right, talk about areas to get better, and redirect if there's any unwanted behavior. But my question for you is, if a listener right now working with a credit union wanted to start tomorrow, what is the simplest way to capture a proof of purpose moment that they could bring into this coaching session?
I would add
And it's
to,
kind of a vague statement. I'll say that because it could be for support or for member facing.
yeah, that's okay. I would add two questions. One, are you, the employee, financially better off this month than you were last month?
Mm.
Why not? Not that you have to talk in detail about your personal financial situation with your manager, because a lot of people won't. But
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
if it's just a question for them to prompt self-reflection
Hmm.
with a little note of, if not, provide this feedback, because part of our purpose at the credit union is to make sure that you, as an employee, are getting financially better off over time. And if we are
Yes.
not supporting you doing that, if we are actually actively blocking you from doing that, then we've got a big problem. And if you need to report anonymously in a way that will go to the benefits team, then do that.
Hmm.
That's one.
You know, one of my favorite is, because I want to camp out on this one before you go to the second question. That is such a crazy question, but good. One of my favorite companies, Ramsey Solutions. So they're the big debt-free, and they help businesses with entree leadership, all this stuff. When you apply, you go through 7 rounds of interviews. One of the rounds,
Mm.
you have to submit your monthly budget so that they
Mm.
know the money and the benefits they give you will actually help you afford life. So you are living in a healthy spot. So you can be outward focused and focus on helping other people win with money. Now, the question is, do our credit unions do it? Oh, no, that seems uncomfortable. No, just like you're saying, we need to be the example of the life we're going to provide to our members. If I'm not doing well, why would a member want to listen to me? Why would a member want to use the products I'm suggesting if I'm drowning or 2 days away from getting a collections call myself? Such a great first question that I want listeners to really focus on. Say, all right, how can you bring that to your department? How could you bring that to your credit union? So that was question one. What was the second question?
Are members financially better off this month versus last month because of something that you did?
Mm.
You may have to get a little creative depending on where you sit in the organization. But if we've structured mission and purpose right, you should be able to say yes, even if it's in the smallest possible way. Our members are a little bit less stressed because I resolve their concerns very quickly. Our members are more informed and empowered about their credit because I shared that new, here's how to understand your credit report with every new member.
Mm.
Our members are saving hundreds of dollars a month in interest because we were able to consolidate all of this really expensive credit card debt into a debt consolidation loan. If we're constructing things properly and having those recurring team meetings and check-ins about that connection between mission and values and behavioral standards and purpose and what we actually did, then those examples should just be chop, 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 easy to come by. And then when you're capturing them in coaching feedback, then you're trying to summarize, a month, a quarter, a year at the credit union level. You don't have to go searching for stories. You've got thousands and thousands and thousands of stories already.
Yes. And I know that's a big thing with you is using the data to tell a story. And as leaders, that's the part where we get to say, you're a part of this story. Man.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much for being here. What last word, advice, insight do you have for our listeners? These are aspiring credit union leaders, people that want to move up to leadership, and current leaders in the credit union space.
Just start. Just start. It's not going to be perfect in the beginning. Nobody knows everything, but you're never going to run your marathon if you don't start training for it, even if you don't have the perfect shoes or the perfect training plan. Just start, and odds are that your peers and your reports and your leadership will be inspired by your example. You never know who will decide to join you once you just start.
I want to invite listeners to just start now. Based on this conversation, what's the one thing you're going to do differently to better reflect your team living out their mission? Andy, thanks for being here.
Thank you both.
Man, Albrecht, I'm on fire right now. I feel like I could just run through a brick wall. Yeah. Let's unpack this. There's so much stuff that Andy said that totally backs up what we teach in our leadership and in our contributor trainings. So I want to do something interesting. I know sometimes we do a game in the middle of the podcast. I want to finish it off with this. Albrecht, give us an Albrecht acronym of what's your big takeaway from this. Could you give us an acronym on maybe the word proof? What do you got?
Yeah. So I've got a great acronym for you. Standardized operating procedures. You heard them in the podcast. They're called SOPs. You know me, but I'm replacing that baby with a POP. That's right. Proof of purpose. How do I know my purpose is living out? I'm actually spending time giving members credit reports. That's the SOP. Give a member a credit report within 2 days of meeting with them. But I don't want to call it an SOP, you know me, baby, because I want to call it a POP, you know me.
Man, what's the pop? I love that. And, for me, I always try to do principle, parable, practice. And I think the principle here that Andy talked about very well is closing the feedback loop. You create the mission, you create the behavior, and then we've got to recognize when people are living it out. And that's where the proof of purpose, I so want to say purchase, proof of purpose comes in. So guys, thank you so much for listening. This is the Credit Union Podcast, where we inspire current and aspiring leaders. Till next time, we'll see you.
Stay tuned. We were so excited to have Andy from Attune that we're bringing Attune back to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts, where we've talked about the 7 steps to impact financial health. We're going to talk about what you need to make a commitment towards, and then the action to back it up. That episode will be coming out soon. If you're listening to this later, it's already out. Look for it. It should be called something like the 7 steps to impact financial health. It's going to be awesome. See you there. Interested in submitting a question to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast? We want to hear from you. Go in our show notes. We have a link over there, and in that link, it's going to take you to 2 options. You can submit a question written out through email, or you can submit an audio recording through SpeakPipe. We make it super easy. Go to the link in the show notes, click audio recording. Once you click audio recording, it's going to take you straight to a website where you just press the record button. You've got 90 seconds to submit a question or submit you catching doing somebody do it right. And then you just type in your name and email address, and that's it. It comes straight to us, and we'll take it from there. So you don't need to download anything. You don't need to get any new software. You just go to this website, press record, and click submit, and we're good to go. So go to the link in the show notes, click if you want to submit a question written out or through audio, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, we are on YouTube. We've got video podcasts, so click the link in the show notes, watch our YouTube video. We're working on how to get videos on Spotify and iTunes, Apple Music, things like that. But what we've learned is that people are 80% more likely to remember something if there's a visual associated with it. So watch our video podcast, comment, let us know how we can be better. Let us be part of your journey. Thank you so much. Service Stars target leadership. Credit unions executives, we cannot afford to have breakdowns in key leadership areas. If you have breakdowns in communication, what's that going to create?
unnecessary conflict, drama, and just dropping the ball. If we have breakdowns in relationship, what does this create? Mistrust, toxic environments. If there's breakdowns in alignment, we're wasting effort. We're losing time. There's division. Breakdowns in execution. Oh my gosh, we're talking about unmet goals, missed deadlines, blown budgets, and damaged credibility. These are the things you don't want. What you need to do is gain insights into your strengths and weaknesses by diagnosing each of these leadership areas and pinpointing opportunities for improvement. And guess what? ServiceStar Consulting and Giant Worldwide are joining forces to nurture credit union leaders who can inspire. We've got a certified coach, Peter Tyson, who is going to test these out and work on these skills to help you develop your talent, your alignment, your reflection, your growth, your engagement, and tailored coaching sessions, one-on-one coaching sessions where you get to reflect what you've learned on during these courses. This is a great thing. If you've taken Emerging Leaders and Vertex, this is the next step in your leadership journey. This is meant for managers, directives, and executive leaders. It's also meant for people that want to become executive leaders. So don't wait. Sign up today. The link is in the show notes.